I guess Senate's been in the news a little bit this week again, and let me just say, I mean, like every day somebody asks me, well, when is an ethics complaint coming on Jeff Michel? What's going on with Jeff Michel? And let me just say, so that question doesn't get asked, we haven't had a lot of time to think about it, and we haven't caucused it. If you think about this session, you know, we got a new majority leader at the first of the year. We're all kind of reeling over all of the events that led up to that, and we get in here the first day of session, and the first thing that happens the first day is the Senate DFL is told to lay off 14 staff, but we're not going to lay off any. We're kind of reeling from that, and then it leads up to them hiring a regent from the University of Minnesota to work in a partisan staff position at the Senate. Before we get done kind of reeling from that, which I publicly said is inappropriate, before we kind of figure that all out, we hear that a former Senate staffer has hired an attorney contemplating suing the Senate. Then we hear in the press that the Senate has hired an attorney, unbeknown to me. And then this last week, we find out that they're printing campaign literature in the state capitol at state expense. And so the truth is about Jeff Michel or Amy Koch or any of the results around that, we haven't had a lot of time to think about that yet.
Maybe the leading with the Bachelor was appropriate.
But I did, and I think we gave a copy of it today, I am very, very concerned about the revelations about printing campaign material at state expense here in the Capitol, and sent a letter to Senator Senjum late yesterday, released it this morning. They have a lot of new members that probably didn't have a clue what Section 211B in state statute is all about. But there needs to be a very, very bright line between campaign activity and serving as a member of the legislature. And the idea that incumbent legislators use state resources, be it stationery or postage or staff time, to do campaign-related activity in what's leading up. You know, the campaign will start next week. When the maps come out, most legislators are going to be thinking about their districts, who they're paired with, whether they're going to run again, and this place will shift heavy into campaign mode. So I think the timing of this is critical. I think it's critical that the Rules Committee hold a hearing on this so that we make, the Rules Committee is the administrative committee of the Senate, that we make it very clear to all the members of the Senate that there is none campaign activity going to be allowed in the state capitol. So that was my reason for sending him the letter. I think we need to make that very clear. I can just tell you our caucus, as far back as I am aware, has always had caucus night material prepared by commercial printers outside of the building. And it was no different this year. Our members went down the street, and most of them paid about $150, and we could supply you some of those invoices if you'd like to see, to have that artwork done and for the publication and printing of it. And they used their personal campaign accounts for that. It's the way we've always done it. It's intended for a very narrow group of constituents that someday you're going to ask to vote for you for the party endorsement. And it is clearly a partisan act. And just kind of in closing on that, one thing I didn't mention in the letter that I think needs to be considered is the link on that piece of campaign literature that directed you to the Republican caucus campsite or website where you had an opportunity to contribute to their caucus. I am going to ask them when we have a Rules Committee hearing that any money raised as a result of that link connection during precinct caucus night and when they took that link down needs to be returned to the state general fund because it was raised through illegal campaign activity. So I'll be making that request also. And it might be zero, but I would bet you of those thousands of people who got that piece of literature, many of them might have went home that night and clicked on that website just to see what that was about. and many of them may have made a contribution based on a illegal piece of literature. So I'd like to see that money returned to the state. That concludes my comments. That's what my week has been about. Who knows what next week will bring.
So, well, I just wanted to touch a little bit on the State of the State address. You know, I think the governor did lay out a very clear message to all legislators what this the session's priority ought to be about. It's what we've been talking about. It's about jobs. I was a little surprised to see, after people bipartisanly rose and applauded him on that, to hear some criticism from the Republicans about what I thought really was a hopeful message for the state. And I hope you know, we continue to stand ready and willing to work on some very specific things that will get people back to work. I've talked about these things with you before, but we have some things that really will get people back to work that have not yet had a hearing, have not been raised to the level of discussion in the Republican caucus, and I would just encourage them. That's what people really care about right now, is getting folks back to work, and I hope that they'll take us up on that next week. One bill that is going to be up on Monday on the House floor is this Pawn America bill. Probably the most unnecessary bill, which is saying a lot, perhaps, that we've seen in the legislature this year. It would authorize Pawn America, you know, the only person that is pushing for this legislation to pass, to basically charge unlimited fees on people that that go to them to get a loan. It makes absolutely no sense. It's just another example of the Republicans siding with a special interest over middle-class Minnesotans who are struggling with the economy right now. And it is completely unnecessary, and is helping almost exclusively one business that doesn't do well by most consumers in this state. And then the only other thing that I guess I would highlight this week, we had another hearing on the property tax bill of Representative Davids. Again, he is paying for corporate tax relief by raising taxes on 300,000 renters across the state. They couldn't take a vote on it. I think they're struggling within their caucus on that issue. They don't provide any residential property tax relief. They continue to insist on giving, well, I shouldn't say any, 6% of it goes to residents, 94% goes to mainly large corporations. Again, misplaced priorities, and I think it was striking in Speaker Zeller's State of the State address that he once again, when asked about the focus on economy, he says it starts and ends, that discussion starts and ends with business. Again, he never talks about the people of Minnesota, what we ought to be doing with the people of Minnesota. Very clear distinction between what we think we ought to be doing and where the Republicans are. I think it's very unfortunate, and I hope that they will again turn attention to some of our bills that are going to get people back to work, retrained, and invest in the people of Minnesota once again, instead of simply talking about big corporations.
While you're at the mic, what will you respond to the attempt on Monday to pass a bill to require notification when people are sex offenders or moved to halfway houses?
Sure. I mean, it's going to require 90 votes to declare an urgency, and we will be supporting that as well.
How about that stadium?
How about it?
Do you support a special session if it doesn't happen by April 30th?
I think no was probably the answer on that. And you know, again, it's an issue that we continue to hear a lot of talk about, but aren't seeing tangible results so far. I hope that we do get to a point where, if we're going to deal with it, we deal with it in the regular session and we bring it to a vote in the regular session.
Well, I'm a little surprised by all the media around this and the imminency of this happening, considering nobody has talked to me about it for 2 or 3 weeks. And there apparently have been some meetings going on. I haven't been part of them. But I don't support the idea of a special session. I think members of the legislature aren't going to support the idea of a special session. Certainly if the governor calls us in, we'll come. But I would be surprised if Senator Senjum pulled his caucus if they thought coming in here to work on a stadium bill in the middle of a campaign in a new district was a very good idea.
Senator Bakk, the photo ID bill now contains an issue of provisional balloting, which was not included at the public hearings. And I asked Senator Senjum if There should be a public hearing on it, and he declined to comment. Do you have any comment?
Well, I think generally my comment is I don't support putting that provision in our state constitution. And provisional balloting is going to create several day, maybe week delay in some races around the state over who wins. So I just generally don't support and haven't taken very seriously the bill if it's a constitutional amendment. If there want to have a conversation about putting something in statute relative to photo identification, I'm willing to have that conversation. It seems to me like if somebody comes to the polls and they don't have a photo ID, in today's world of technology, we can't take a picture of them and somehow find a database to put that on. I just think the idea of an amendment and refusing somebody the right to vote is just unacceptable to me and nothing that I'm going to spend a lot of time even thinking about.
Senator Bakk, the implication in the governor's state of the state was that there are already a lot of bills that are for campaign literature purpose only that have been introduced. If things switch into a campaign mode next Tuesday, what's your prediction in terms of the type of bills that will be introduced?
Oh, I think the Republican leaders are going to find after the redistricting maps come out next week, not unlike the 2002 map when I came to the Senate. I think in 2002 there were 18 incumbents that were paired. I think and I don't expect this map to probably look a whole lot different than that. I think what they're going to find is they are going to have a lot of members of their caucuses that are going to feel some urgency to go home, and the fact that we're sitting around or moving bills around that are destined for a governor's veto, I think more and more people are going to realize is a waste of everybody's time. So I had, before the session started, said I don't see any reason that we can't adjourn this session before Easter. I still feel that way. I think they will start to understand once the maps come out why I had promoted that before, prior to them setting the committee deadlines.
Gentlemen, on the Viking Stadium again, the backers have made hints that they're going to roll something out soon. They say they're going to have a bill next week. Minneapolis on the back side of the current Metrodome site. If that's indeed the case, if there's indeed an actual bill that is rolled out, say as soon as next week, is this doable from you gentlemen's perspective, this regular legislative session?
You know, we don't have the gavels on this at this point. So it's a matter of whether the legislative leadership, the Republicans, have the political will to bring it through the committee process. And at the end of the day, it's going to have to be a bipartisan bill if it passes, and we understand that. But it's really on them to figure out. And I do think if the Speaker would take a strong stand on some of these constitutional amendments and just, instead of saying one thing and letting his members do something else, he just said we're not doing constitutional amendments this year, that may free up some time to get people back to work and do some other things.
Senator Bakk, is your attitude similar that it's going to need to be bipartisan? You realize that? Will your caucus put up some votes on the stadium if it gets to that point?
It will be a bipartisan vote, both in the committees and on the floor. But, there's multiple committees the bill will need to go through. There are people that feel very strongly against this, that are members of the House and the Senate that are going to try to throw whatever kind of roadblocks they can in the way. It will not be an easy bill to move through multiple committees. There will be large numbers of people from the public that are going to want to have the opportunity to weigh in. And remember, it's at the committee table where the public gets their opportunity to weigh in on issues in front of the legislature. So I think you will see large numbers of people that want to testify. You will see very, very long, multiple-day committee hearings. I think they need to prepare for that. And every day that goes by makes the likelihood of passing a bill this session more unlikely.
Senator, regarding your request for a Rules Committee hearing on the caucus literature, Senator Senjum repeats again today that it was inadvertent, and he says that the partisan language is similar to what the Democrats do. Would you respond to that?
Well, I don't believe any of our members are printing anything at the Capitol that I know they didn't print anything that goes out to their party caucus events, And I know, I wish they would print some of the personal stuff with their campaign funds that directed people to the Senate caucus to make a contribution. That might be helpful to me in fundraising. But I guess if they have some information where my members have done some illegal use of state resources, I think rather than talk about that, they need to bring an example forward. But clearly, the pieces they printed had a website where people could go and contribute to the Senate Republican caucus. I have never seen anything like that from members of the DFL Senate. And on that issue of how much should the Senate be reimbursed, that's part of the reason I want to have a Rules Committee hearing, is I think the notion that they can reimburse the Senate for something less than $50, when all of my members went down the street to a commercial printer and paid in the neighborhood of $150 each. Now, if they're going to reimburse the Senate $3 a piece, then the state is subsidizing the production of their campaign material with taxpayer dollars. So that's the conversation I think we need to have in the Rules Committee, because if they had gone outside, they'd have paid $150 like my people did. And if the Republican caucus thinks that reimbursing the state $3 a member, that doesn't change the fact that it's illegal to ask employees of the Senate or the legislature to do campaign-related activity. The Senate has been through this, and some of you remember back in the 90s. And so there's some case law on this, and we'll see what the Office of Administrative Hearings has to say about this, what the conclusion that they come to, and that should happen fairly timely.
Senator Senjum said several times that it's inadvertent, and they didn't mean to do it. Does that matter to you?
No, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I think, matter of fact, I'll go so far as to say an employee of the Senate shouldn't take the fall for this. I mean, individual senators are responsible for their own campaign literature, and they were responsible, and I saw Senator Senjum on television say he had reviewed his and thought it looked just fine. Well, if you had reviewed it and you thought it was fine, how is it inadvertent? I mean, if somebody hadn't reviewed it, maybe you could blame somebody else, but I just don't believe that members of the Senate start handing out literature that they haven't taken a look at or proofed first. And clearly in Senator Senjum's case, I saw him say on television that he had reviewed his.
If the link were not on that, would there be any problem? Would it be okay to be printed here?
I think it's still a problem because it talks specifically about going to a partisan Republican precinct caucus, so it's not literature that is intended for general distribution to the public, like newsletters that many members send out. It wasn't intended for just general publication to their constituency. It was intended to influence a very narrow group of people who ultimately someday were going to be asked to vote for that member of the Senate for endorsement to run into the election.
Might you file an ethics complaint on that?
I think I started by saying I haven't thought a lot about ethics complaints, but I think the Office of Administrative Hearings needs to act on that. This is the proper place for this right now. They could refer it to the county attorney. I don't have a clue what decision they're going to come to. They could simply fine the individuals with a civil penalty. They could, I believe they have the authority to just dismiss the complaint also. So I guess we probably wouldn't comment about what other action we might take until the Office of Administrative Hearings has come to their conclusions.
Thank you.